To begin with, the term Dalit actually was not used by the scholars. I mean, the writers, the artists, the poets, and public intellectuals of the pre-independence period. The textual, connotations like untouchables, and by going by their caste name, Malas, Madigas, and some of them, of course, use this category called depressed. We are depressed class, depressed. Yeah, there is an association also, but the term Dalit as such was not used during the pre-independence period, either by Bhagireddy Verma, who was the father of the Dalit movement in Telangana, and Kusuma Dharmana, Boy Bhimana, Guram Joshua in Andhra Pradesh. Though they used the term depressed, oppressed, excluded, awareness, but they did convey a meaning of oppression, suppression, and exclusion. When they used those terms, they seem to have included the other oppressed communities, but the major focus was on the what we now call the Dalit communities, mainly the Malas and the Madigas. Okay, there is in that sense that category or the conceptualization of the term by the pre-independence intellectuals who articulated a counter culture to Savarna articulation, and also visualized a society based on justice, equality, and fraternity. It was, to a very large extent, I should say, largely a caste category. By that I mean they are focusing mainly on the so-called ex-untouchable communities. In fact, when they, but they are very clear of the distinction between the Savarna and the Avarna. For example, Guram Joshua, when he wanted to convey the feelings, the aspirations, the perceptions of the Dalits, he used the bat, the bat, it is black in color, which is a distinct kind of an identity. But as we all know, the term Dalit as a category which conveyed an emancipatory meaning and an articulation of annihilation of caste had come into being in the social science literature, in my understanding, in the 1980s, particularly with the Dalit Panther movement. So there is a distinct genre of literature called the Dalit literature, Dalit theater, Dalit arts, Dalit philosophy, etc., etc. When they meant by Dalit, they meant, of course, all the oppressed, subjugated, people or communities. Though the focus was, of course, as far as Maharashtra was concerned, the focus was, of course, on the Mahars and the monks. So that way, there is a distinction between the category that was used by the pre-independence intellectuals, organic intellectuals belonging to, now we call them Dalits. They did not call themselves Dalits at that time, but they certainly, had a conception of what injustice meant, what exclusion meant, what caste oppression meant, and they had also a distinct understanding of themselves. The notion of self was very much articulated, and they also through their writings and speeches have clearly drawn the distinction between Savarna and the Avarna. So they articulated the Avarna and also, they also use this, analogy or kind of do a distinction between them and the us, in terms of Dravidian Aryan identity. Also, there is also this mention. Okay, so in that sense, the use of the term has undergone a transformation, so to speak, through the historical period. So during the pre-1947, though they were influenced by a number of lower caste, intellectuals, Bhakti tradition, for example, they drew a lot of inspiration from Chokomela, from Kabir, from Nanak, and a host of medieval Bhakti tradition, and they also read the Hindu classical texts to actually support them. They used, for example, a text called Raga Vasishtam. There's a scholar called Boy Bhimana, who reinterpreted, who reread, the classical, classical Brahmanical literature, and they kind of inverted them. Okay, so they in fact denounced, the kind of a ideological justification that was made by the Brahmanical ideology of Achut, of untouchable, and so on. So they claimed equality. They said that, at one point of time in history, particularly during the Vedic period, there was, equality. There was no distinction between, gender, between caste, community, and so on. Therefore, they wanted that kind of a, society to be built, and therefore they denounced, So in that sense, they had a strong connection to the contemporary use of the term called Dalit, insofar as it undermined the Savarna ideology, Savarna philosophy, and Savarna identity. That way, the Avarna, identity could be, broadly sort of associated with what we today call Dalit. That's very clear, because though as a student of history, I should not make this empirical mistake that, nowhere in the literature that I read, the writings, the term Dalit, though they are aware of the term, like Baba Sahib Ambedkar used this, depressed class, the category of called depressed class. That was also, freely, used by these intellectuals in Andhra, Telangana during the pre-1947. So therefore, I draw a distinction between the way the term, evolved during the pre-1947 and the post-1947. In that sense, but one thing common in both the categorization is that the identity, the self, we vis-a-vis the other. So that distinction was made, and that's of course very elaborately sort of articulated in the 1980s Dalit literature, Dalit movement. The Telugu literary tradition, particularly in the 19th century, with the advent of colonialism and the kind of colonial modernity that unfolded. By the late 19th century, the various social reform movements like Arya Samaj, Brahma Samaj, Theosophical Society, and a number of others, social reform movements were led by the educated upper caste elites, mainly the Brahmins, in Andhra, Telangana, whether it is Kandukuri Veerasinghe Pantulu, Gurjada Apparao, and Suroram Pratap Reddy, and a host of others. So these upper caste social reformers were sensitive to the disabilities, injustices pertaining to the what they called the Avarna communities, and they did, in fact, write, produce certain literature, in the form of plays, dramas. Kanya Shulkam was one, play that was written by Gurjada Apparao, and Veerasinghe Pantulu has also wrote short stories. And Suroram Pratap Reddy also addressed the issues faced by the disabilities faced with it. So that way, the sympathetic upper caste writers, scholars, did reflect on the Dalit question, Dalit issue, but that I cannot define it as a Dalit literature. At best, I can say that it is a literature which was empathetic, sympathetic, and connected with the caste, oppression. Of course, that emotion of the upper caste is also sort of informed by the nationalist movement, the nationalist ideology, and by then also, egalitarian, humanitarian, socialist ideologies were spreading. So therefore, these upper caste intellectuals produced that literature, which was sensitive and which addressed, the question of untouchability exclusion, which is produced by the non-Dalits, cannot be adequately conceptualized as Dalit literature. That sense. When I say Dalit literature, I mean that literature which is produced by the Dalit intellectuals for Dalits and about Dalits, because this literature, in a sense, is more realistic, authentic, and there is emotional attachment, philosophical attachment, ideological attachment. When, for instance, Guram Joshua wrote this the long poem, called "The Bat," there you will really see that his self-expression, the agony, the pain, the anguishness, and of course the anger, etc., of a Dalit subject could be seen. Similarly, Kusuma Dharmana, when he wrote this long poem again called "Black Landlordism," it is a kind of a counter to the long poem written by an upper caste elite called "White Landlordism." So he was critiquing, the British rule, So whereas Kusuma Dharmana said, okay, you are talking about oppression by the white landlords, but how about the oppression by the black landlords, meaning the upper caste landlords, in Andhra, Telangana, rural society, how they oppress and subjugated, the Dalit and other, weaker sections. So therefore, he counterposed, that brown landlordism with black landlordism, or white landlordism with brown landlordism, and then sort of reasoned out the emancipatory, articulation through his writings. So Guram Joshua, Kusuma Dharmana, Bhagirathi Varma, these writings are they belong to a distinct genre, what I call Dalit literature. This literature, which is produced by the Dalits, for the Dalits, of the Dalits, and in that sense, I would say that holds good even to the contemporary situation. I will give you one more example. Look at of course, even in the post-independence period, we have a number of, in Telangana, Andhra, that militant peasant movements were launched. These peasant movements during the pre-1947 and during the 70s and 80s, radical left, movements were led by, of course, the upper caste elites, upper caste intellectuals, who were influenced by Marxism, Leninism, Mao thought, etc. They led. But the literature that was produced by the radical left missed out the sensibility of the caste, the reality of the caste class. Of course, the class, the oppressed, class included Dalits, non-Dalits too. But the kind of struggles that they launched, for example, the issues like dignity, social oppression, the way that Dalit woman, is possessed by the landlords, and the way that the upper caste landlords unleashed, caste violence. It is, in a way, they articulated it in terms of class oppression, the landlord versus the aggregate laborers. But they forgot, because they're not sensitive, because though they were influenced by Marxist, ideology, they were influenced to the fact that landlords, the class in Andhra Telangana, also belong to the upper caste, the Kammas, the Reddys, to some small extent, Brahmins. So in caste terms, they belong to upper caste. The laboring class, the proletariat, what they call, the proletariat, also consisted of the Dalits. 80% of them are Dalits, and another percent are the non-Dalits, what I call the lower Sudra communities are the Bahujans. So the kind of literature that was produced during the militant peasant struggles, they in fact, of course, inspired, generations of youth belonging to both Dalit and non-Dalit, the Bahujans particularly, though the leadership was under the control of the upper caste elites who were sympathetic to the cause of, class annihilation or class struggle. the literature that is produced in the context of Dalit Panther movement and the Dalit Mahasabha was more authentic. The themes centered around the dialectic of upper caste oppression and lower caste resistance. And the literature was realistic insofar as that literature was produced by those intellectuals coming from the Dalit communities, monks and Mahars, Malas and Madigas, and others, in Karnataka, Dalit Sangharsh Samiti. Though they were influenced by Marxism, and the leftist ideologies, they were able to understand or comprehend the centrality of the caste and produce such a great literature, which, since it was authentic, it influenced and it drew a whole generation of Dalit youth into these movements. So in that sense, I would say, if the literature, a literature that is produced by the oppressed, by the suppressed, by the Dalits, has this distinct, feature of authentication, of self, the realistic projection, the thing. But it doesn't mean that non-Dalits are excluded, from producing that kind of literature. But a literature, in its various forms, maybe short stories, plays, dramas, fiction, and histories, and so on, is now, in fact, has clarified. And this was, of course, this was also debated among the intellectuals here in Andhra, because perhaps compared to North India, compared to the Indo-Gangetic, here the question of caste and class are so intertwined. The movements were also equally intertwined, the class and caste movements. The Dalit movement, in a way, is also a class movement. In Kerala, of course, you have the distinct, class mobilization. Though there are, castes, like the Ijavas, and Pulayas and Parayas. In Tamil Nadu, the articulation was primarily in caste, idioms, coupled with Dravidianism. But in Andhra Telangana, it is distinct in the sense, here, the 1980s Dalit movement, in fact, was able to combine both the caste and the class perspective. And therefore, it became, more, authentic, and that's how, the whole generation of the youth, if one looked at the social basis of the radical left movements in Andhra Telangana from 1980s till today, 90% of them, the cadre are drawn from the Dalit Bahujan communities. I use this word, consciously. By Bahujan, I mean the lower caste Sudras, who have so many commonalities in terms of their, social existence, material life, cultural, articulations and mobilizations. Though the stigma of untouchability only distinguishes, but even some of the lower Sudra communities were also treated as more or less on par with untouchables. But that kind of a stigma, of course, if you just keep that aside. Otherwise, there are so many other things which are very common. So therefore, 90% of the cadre of the radical left movement was drawn from that. And the issues actually was addressed. The issues for which they fought was question of izzat, the social dignity, self-respect, and equality, social equality. Though, it was articulated in a class ideology, in a program that was, in fact, constructed by the leadership. But yet, I would think the radical left movement contributed quite significantly in this anti-caste consciousness, and the Dalit identity is further reinforced. And in that sense, the term Dalit is no longer, as in the pre-independence period, confined to the so-called untouchable or ex-untouchables, but they conceptualize it as a category consisting of the so-called ex-untouchables, lower caste Sudras, minorities, women, Adivasis. That way, the term got expanded, and it is an inclusive term. Though there are apparently certain internal contradictions, but the internal contradictions are not, they're antagonistic, they're friendly, so to speak. But, the broader identity of Dalit, was very much articulated in various movements from 1980s onwards. Even in Telangana, going by the Telangana experience, I can tell you that even till today, in the rural areas, the urge of the Dalits for social equality, dignity, izzat, the izzat of their women, the izzat of their self is very much articulated. And of course, it got further cemented with the class ideology. That way, the Telangana Andhra movement, Dalit movement is unique compared to Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and the North Indian, developments.